Human reason. It can only go so far in exploring life's deep issues, like why are we here and why is there suffering? And when three men pool their ignorance to help a friend in distress, the result can be worse than no help at all. That's what happened to Job. Has it ever happened to you? Well-meaning people can often cause more pain than they seek to relieve. From the Moody Church in Chicago, this is Running to Win with Dr. Erwin Lutzer, whose clear teaching helps us make it across the finish line. Today, Dr. Lutzer continues his series, God, Why Me?, as we hear more of his message on When Comfort is Discomfort. Job's friends are urging him to get right with God.
And so I want you to notice that Job replies now in chapters 9 and 10. And he spills out his soul. He says in chapter 9, verse 2, "In truth I know that it is so, but how can a man be right before God?" What you're saying may be right, and you tell me to seek God, but how do I find him? In fact, we're going to be considering that in a future message, as Job spills out his heart and says, where is God when I need him? Why does he always hide himself when I am in the midst of all of this distress? But he doesn't help Job's despair. In fact, if we had the time, we'd see that at the end of this speech, Job begins to sink into deep depression again and wish for death. Now let me introduce you to a third of his friends, the third friend, and he is the meanest of all of them. And he is Zophar. Zophar the Naamathite, chapter 11, verse 1. He begins to talk to Job, and he just is waiting to give his speech. He says, "Shall a multitude of words go unanswered, and a talkative man be acquitted? Shall your boasts silence men, and shall you scoff and none rebuke? For you have said, my teaching is pure, and I am innocent in your eyes, but would that God might speak." Let's pick it up at verse 7. "Can you discover the depths of God? Can you discover the limits of the Almighty? They are as high as the heavens. What can you do? Deeper than Sheol. What can you know? Its measure is longer than the earth and broader than the sea." Verse 13, "If you would direct your heart right and spread out your hand to him, if iniquity is in your hand, put it far away, and do not let wickedness dwell in your tents. Then indeed you could lift up your face without moral defect, and you would be steadfast and not fear. And you would forget your trouble as waters that pass by." Job, cough it up. What is it that you have done that is causing this? If only you would stop trying to justify yourself, if only you would search your heart, find out all of the iniquity that is in it, and confess it, you'd get on with the business of being healthy and happy and wise, and you wouldn't have to sit in this ash heap with a disease that has troubled you from the top of your head to the very soles of your feet. What is it, Job? Get honest. Now, I want you to know that Job then replies, and he replies in chapters 12 to 14, and of course we can only look at that briefly, with great deal of anger and sarcasm. Look at chapter 12, verse 1, for example. "And Job said, you are the people, and with you wisdom will die. But if I have intelligence as well as you, I am not inferior to you, and who does not know such things as these? I am a joke to my friends. The one who called on God, and he answered him, the just and blameless man, is a joke." And he goes on to say that his reputation has been ruined. The stories that people are telling about him in town are getting around. Rumors are spreading. He is being implicated in sin, and he does not know what to do, because search his heart as he will, he cannot point to anything that has caused this disaster. Now, because we're doing a survey of the book of Job, and we're not at all going to look at every chapter, I'm expecting you to do all the reading. Let me go to the end of the book and ask this question. What does God think of these three friends anyway? Now, they meant well, and many of the things that they said were wise and good, and they acted on the basis of the knowledge they had. But what does God think? It certainly is worth your time to turn to Job chapter 42, where we can see exactly how God regarded all of this wisdom, well-intentioned though it was. Chapter 42, verse 7, it says, "And it came about after the Lord had spoken these words to Job, that the Lord said to Eliphaz the Temanite, 'My wrath is kindled against you and against your two friends, because you have not spoken of me what is right, as my servant Job has.'" God says your theology was wrong and you approached this incorrectly, and I am not pleased. In fact, Job ends up offering sacrifices for his three friends so that the judgment of God against them would be held back. Wow. Well, in analyzing all this, we have to ask the question, where did they go wrong? What was so wrong with their advice? Well, what I'd like to do now is to give you three mistakes that Job's friends made in doing their counseling and in their pastoral visitation class that God asked them to respond to. Where did they go wrong? Number one, Job's friends talked without feeling. They talked without feeling. They were having a speculative discussion at Job's expense. They were having a rousing theological discussion, and they came with their preconceived ideas and their preconceived notions. They were not in sorrow. It was not they who were feeling the tremendous pressure of this illness. It was not their wife who suggested curse God and die, and therefore they could talk freely. As a matter of fact, they were very concerned that this intellectual discussion go on so that they could display some of their knowledge and their keen insights, and they had many keen insights, but they did not take into account that they were speaking to someone who was hurting so badly he could not see God. And sometimes we do hurt that badly. So first of all, I would like to say that they talked without feeling because it was a speculative discussion. They talked without feeling because it was also a prejudiced discussion. If you read these speeches, you find out that these men have their mind made up, and their great concern is that Job